Hey, this is Dan Moralez, and this is Home Buyer Radio. We're back to the podcast, and we're into 2017, and we're talking about buying a house. And last week, I had with me Rebecca Perkins from At Home Realty. And back again this week, I have with me Rebecca Perkins from At Home Realty.
Oh, thanks for having me back, Dan.
Thanks for suffering with me yet another week.
Glad to do so.
Yes, well, I appreciate that. So what I wanted to talk about is, towards the end of the podcast last week, we were talking about, the benefits of using a realtor if you're looking to buy a property. And, we during the course of our conversation, started to talk a little bit about, agency. And one of the benefits to having a realtor work for you is the ability to have what's called a buyer's agent. And, a buyer's agent, is really an agent that works specifically, let's say, for a buyer. Walk the listeners through the benefit of, having, let's say, you work as my buyer's agent for me.
Well, that's a good question, because I think years and years ago, it was where the realtor that was listing the house also helped the buyer through the process. And as real estate and times have evolved, it's definitely different. There is usually a very distinct listing agent who is representing the seller and working on their behalf. And then the buyer usually will have a buyer's agent working on their behalf. And something that I think people get confused about is just thinking, oh, I'll just call the realtor that has the listing, or just go through them because I can probably save money. Not true. Just a reminder that the person that's listing the house is representing the seller, and their fiduciary duty goes to the seller, not to the buyer. Now, can they help you through the process? Sure, but they can't help you negotiate. They can't give you the inside scoop, which a buyer's agent is able to do.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes, that's another really good point, because I think a lot of times people don't know that, hey, that house has been on the market for, a really long period of time. You would oftentimes know information about a property that, the selling agent isn't going to tell a buyer, because the buyer, could, try to use that as, beneficial information to negotiate a better price. I think you hit the nail on the head that the selling agent works for the seller. They, their job is to, maximize the sales price for the benefit of the seller, not necessarily the people who are buying the property. And, to have you represent me as a buyer's agent means that I have you in my corner negotiating and taking really the benefit of all of that knowledge that you may know about a property or really just the market in general, and being able to use that to help negotiate the most favorable terms when it's all said and done. So if you're working for me as a buyer's agent, just to kind of maybe recap what we talked about last week, the cost to me as a buyer would be what?
Zero.
So zero. So what you're telling me is I would have your expertise, your guidance, your direction, and it cost me nothing.
You got it.
See, now that's just like a great idea, right? I don't know why anybody would want to try to do it on their own. So it's important to make sure you have a buyer's agent. Again, a buyer's agent doesn't cost you anything. They're going to work on your behalf to make sure that you get the absolute best deal, that you have the benefit of all their knowledge and expertise. And, of course, best of all, it doesn't cost them anything. And so, why would you want to forego the benefit of having an expert in your corner, especially if it doesn't cost you anything? And to kind of recap what we talked about last week, the cost of hiring a realtor is a cost that is paid for by the seller of a property. So they get the benefits of all of your expertise, guidance, direction, and negotiating brain power to benefit them versus trying to forego it on their own. So if I'm getting ready to buy and I need to get a hold of you, how do I do that?
Just reach out to me, Rebecca Perkins, and I'm with At Home Realty in Holland. And my cell is area code 616-218-6161. Again, that's 616-218-6161. Or feel free to check out my website at RebeccaPerkinsHomes.com. And that's REBECCA Perkins, PERKINS, Homes, HOMES.com.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for joining me again this week. My name is Dan Moralez with Northpointe Bank. My NMLS number is 709-729, and Northpointe Bank is an equal housing lender.